Let's dive straight in. Episode 3.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Asking for a Friend. Hi Adam, how are you?
Hello, Louise. I am good, although I've just had some drama this evening. My cat has smashed my TV. Yeah, I no longer have a TV.
Oh, is the cat okay? Never mind your TV.
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine. So he thought it would be interesting to jump on top of it and see if he could balance sort of on the top. At the top edge of it, and then it fell over and smashed on the floor, and it's kaput. So there we go. Yeah.
He's cut his foot.
No. He's fine. He's fine. So he sat on the top of it and he smashed it. He tipped it over. It smashed on the cabinet. He jumped away. He's absolutely fine. But the TV is absolutely kaput.
I really blame you as a negligent owner for having a TV.
Yeah. It's my fault.
He can phone Catline for that, you know.
I hope he doesn't. What's really annoying is I know I'm a bit behind the times here, but I've recently discovered Poldark. Have you heard of this, Poldark?
Yeah, I watched it when I was a kid.
Right. Well, this is the fairly recent. I think it was 2014, 2015. It was made or something like that.
All right. Okay. I've seen the old one.
So I've only recently discovered it. So I finished work today, came home this evening, cup of tea, put the latest episode of Poldark on, and 5 minutes in,
I said no. Yeah. Well, you need to listen to your spirit animals there, really.
Yeah.
Adam, I was going to ask you a really important question. When you're at cocktail parties, as we often are, because we're that kind of sophisticated person, and somebody says, "What's your name?" Do you ever introduce yourself as Madam, I'm Adam?
No.
I think you need to start doing that because it's a palindrome.
It is a palindrome, yeah. Right, well, I will set that as perhaps a New Year's resolution. I will do that at least once in 2025.
Good. At your very next cocktail party.
Madam, I'm Adam.
It appears in a Weird Al Yankovic song where he does a whole song that's all palindromes. It's really clever.
Okay. I shall look out for that. So my next cocktail party hasn't been... I don't think I've ever been to a cocktail party.
Me neither. I feel like I'm due one.
Yeah, I'll have to plan one just so I can say, Madam, I'm Adam.
But you have to plan it with people who don't know what you're called, because if you just invite your mates, they all know that you're called Adam and you can't say it. You've got to have new people there.
Right, I'll work on that.
Okay. So we're going to talk about Christmas today because that's what I wanted to talk about. And it's not that I'm hyper controlling or anything, but we compromised. You wanted to talk about the figures and I wanted to talk about Christmas. So we compromised and we're talking about Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely the perfect time to talk about Christmas, isn't it? Because
it's Christmas.
Yeah, because it's Christmas in about 5 days. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, a lot of people in the UK celebrate it. So they're in the midst of manically shopping and raiding the shelves at the supermarkets for their Christmas dinners and trying to buy last minute presents. And obviously for the witnesses, it's a very different story. So good subject.
And for the people in between, either the people that are just leaving or have just left, it's a really conflicted time, isn't it? And I was going to ask you, how did you feel about your first Christmas when you were out? What happened?
So I left the organisation in 2017, very early 2017. So I had almost 12 months to kind of mentally prepare for my first Christmas. But even then, almost a year after leaving, I felt very guilty. I felt guilty having Christmas decorations in the house. I felt guilty buying and receiving Christmas presents. I think because the programming sticks with you, doesn't it?
Yeah, massively.
When you think about it, having some decorations in the house and buying a present for someone, that's like, some of the nicer things in life, but you're made to feel that it's evil and you should never do it. So I think, to answer your question, I felt very guilty that first one. Then as the years went by, I felt less and less guilt, and I actually love this time of year now, really enjoy it. All of the negative aspects that you were taught about or indoctrinated with when I was in the organisation, it's all a load of rubbish, really, in my opinion.
Did you have, for your first Christmas out, any loved ones that weren't witnesses, like a romantic partner or anything like that, that kind of compelled you to do Christmas?
Yes, I wouldn't say she compelled me to do it. She was very understanding of my background and that I'd never celebrated it before. So she didn't compel me, but she was sensitive to it, and she kind of spoiled me in that, because it was my first Christmas, she did all of the traditional things. You know, she got me a stocking and she put an orange in it, and did all of the things that I wasn't even aware of. So yeah, that was really nice, actually. It made me feel a lot better.
There's a point where if you leave and it's just still you and you don't have involvement of, it doesn't impact anyone, you cannot do it, and it's not an issue, and you can go with how your conscience feels, can't you? If there are other people involved, then it feels very conflicted. So when I left, my daughter was 2, so you know, kind of young enough to maybe not feel deprived if I didn't do it, but also old enough that I wanted to do something for her. But I felt like you, I felt like massively guilty. I felt terrible. Everything in my body screamed against it. And as well as like the witness conditioning against it, there's all the other reasons that other people who aren't witnesses say, you know, that don't particularly like Christmas. It's expensive, it's inequitable. If you're poor, it's a misery. You feel obliged, you know, you sort of feel that, well, I'll buy presents when I want to, not when I'm told to. So there was all that on top. But I had this little girl, and I didn't want to bring her up like I'd been brought up, being very different. And that children just want to fit in, don't they?
Yeah.
So I probably could have got away with it for a year. So I think the first year I didn't really do decorations, but I did some presents. I bought her presents, but I didn't say they were from Santa Christmas or Father Claus, because that felt really wrong. And then that to me felt like a lie. And I really struggled with telling her that Santa Christmas brought the presents, because I'd bought them, and actually I was quite poor, and I thought, if I'm going to have to spend my money, I'm going to get credited with it. So I said they were from me. In fact, I don't think I ever told my daughter that Santa Claus bought the presents. But with my son, I was 10 years further on, so that was different.
And with your daughter, was she of an age where she could remember you not celebrating Christmas?
No. So I left, kind of faded subconsciously when she was a baby. It was because of her. I completely credit my daughter with getting me to leave, because somewhere in my subconscious I couldn't bear to bring her up in the way I'd been brought up, even though I still thought it was the truth. It just felt, every cell screamed out against it. So that was what kind of kick-started me to leave, even though I still thought it was the truth. So she didn't have any memory of a different time. Probably when she was 1, we didn't do Christmas because we might have still been just fading. But when she was 2, I was living in my own house, and I definitely felt the need to do something for her.
I see. Yeah. So she was young. Yeah, she wouldn't have remembered. Yeah. Okay. I can remember feeling not part of it, and there was this awkwardness when I was a child, that I would be at school obviously in December up until you finish for the Christmas holidays, and the children would be making Christmas cards and decorations, and there'd be Christmas carols sung in the assemblies and that. And obviously the teachers were understanding, because my parents had explained, oh, we don't do that because of our religion. And I remember the teachers being very understanding and putting me in a different room. It felt probably for you, it felt isolating as well. I know it did for me.
Yeah, it did. And at the time, I remember like making a big show of not being bothered. But in retrospect, it was really painful. And I remember at primary school, there were children in other classes that didn't know I was a witness that would buy me Christmas cards. And I
Mm.
would be like overwhelmingly grateful. Like I thought this was the kindest thing anyone had ever done. I didn't know that you got 30 little cards and gave and just wrote everybody's name in the whole class. I like thought they'd thought of me and given me this card. And I just remember being like utterly overwhelmed with like the kindness of them, and then overwhelmed with shame that I couldn't give them anything back and that all I could do was say thank you. It felt really inadequate.
You felt quite guilty about that.
Yeah, I did. It was really sad. And I remember at primary school, oh my God, I loved like the silver and the gold and the red, shiny paper that you used to cut up and make things with, and the glitter. Oh, I still love it now. I still love glitter now, and I still love shiny silver and gold paper and red paper and the green paper to make the leaves. It's just like I feel like a 3-year-old.
Was there anything that surprised you about Christmas and celebrating Christmas?
Like now that I celebrate, I really, really love it a lot. I really love everything about it. I love the light. I love trees. I love the decorations. I love buying presents for people. I appreciate that I'm in a privileged position that I can buy presents, and I feel overwhelming sadness for people that have got less money and can't. I think it's a brutal time.
Yeah.
We used to make a really massive deal about it. Oh, it's not Jesus' birthday. It's not Jesus' birthday. Nobody really thinks about Jesus anyway. It's like not really about Jesus' birthday anyway. It's just about having some time off work, buying some presents, decorating.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier this week, and it's probably something we mention later on in the podcast today, but we'll come back to this point. But I think if you took a bunch of, say, 50-year-olds off the street and you surveyed them and said, what are the top 3 things that Christmas means to you?
Yeah.
I wonder what 3 things they would pick.
Well, without a doubt, they'd say family, time to relax. I don't know. What do you think they'd say?
Well, I think with maybe people that age group, they might say it's time to reflect on maybe Christianity or some of the principles of Christianity, giving to others or thinking about those less well off. And then I thought, if you took a bunch of 18-year-olds and asked them the same questions, what 3 things would they come up with?
You see, everybody thinks that kids are being really shallow and vacuous and materialistic, and I don't think they are. I think kids are lovely. So I don't know. I mean, if I try and think about my son, he'd probably say time off school, time to relax, and maybe like loads of nice things to eat.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Time off for school or work, time with family, and time out with friends. Maybe going out for a pint or something. And it occurred to me that religion doesn't seem to play much of a role in it for people anymore. Perhaps some of the older generation, maybe they might go to church once at Christmas, but the vast majority of people I know now, religion's got nothing to do with Christmas.
No, and actually, even with me working in a school and a Catholic school, so it's got try to have a lot of liturgical element to it. So we went over to the church and we did carol singing. It's not necessarily the carols, it's just lovely to sing. Singing in groups is really good. So singing's really good for your polyvagal nerve, which is the nerve that damps down your fight or flight and brings you into safe and social. And singing in groups builds in oxytocin and connection. So actually, carol singing is really good for your mental health.
I was just thinking that the main sort of argument that Jehovah's Witnesses have is that they don't celebrate Christmas because of all of its religious connections.
Yeah.
But we've just kind of stated there that nowadays, especially in the UK, there's not a lot of religion in Christmas for most people. So it is a bit of it's kind of an odd standoff with it.
It is, and we're a very secular country in England, aren't we? I think like America is a bit more religious, but here and in Europe, we're much more secular. And actually, if we're going to get really accurate about it, it's not Jesus anyway, it's Saturnalia. It's getting through winter, isn't it? It's when you walk around your neighbourhood and there's all the twinkly lights, when the days are really short, it does kind of get you through winter.
Yeah, it does. Having something like that, where I live, they have a lot of winter fire festivals. So we have Christmas, and then about 2 weeks later, the first of the winter fire festival starts. That goes on until middle of March. So it's basically a load of social events to get you through the winter.
And that makes sense because winter's brutal, isn't it? And people have seasonal affective disorder because there's not much sun and there's not much light. And it kind of makes sense that we have lots of lights and twinkly things and gifts and eating and just, seeing you through a bit of a miserable part of the year.
Yeah, we kind of concentrate on all of life's good things, the food and the drink and the company and the family and friends, to get us through. There was one interesting point about the presents that I was going to make. Probably had the same experience that when you were a child, people would say, "Oh, you don't celebrate Christmas, so does that mean you don't get any presents?"
And you'd say,
"Well, my mum and dad always taught me to say, well, I get presents other times in the year."
We get presents all year round. And did you get presents at the other times of the year?
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah, my mum and dad were really good. They were mindful of, he's missing out on that festival in December, but we're going to get him something if he does well in his schoolwork, or we're taking him on holiday. So it was. I never felt like I missed out in that respect. But the presents thing, and the presents thing as well. I think it was kind of from a witness standpoint, giving presents at Christmas is almost looked on as a bad thing because it promotes greed. But the way I've seen it, I haven't experienced that personally. The other day, I bought a present for somebody that I don't really know that well, but they'd mentioned something, and I thought, oh, they'd really like a book on that. So I managed to find this book. It cost me about £4 on Amazon, and they're really going to love that. It's not an expensive gift. It's not something, it's not the latest gadget that costs £400, but they're going to absolutely love it because it shows that somebody else was thinking about them. So I think that's the spirit of the festive season, isn't it?
Yeah. So I was wondering, for those people who are genuinely struggling with the dichotomy of really not wanting to buy into Christmas for whatever reason, either they're very close to leaving or they just don't want to get pulled into an obligatory festival. I was thinking about alternative things that people could do to help them through a season that could be quite difficult. And I've got a couple of ideas, one of which I have done and one of which I haven't done. Okay. So one of my ideas is helping other people always builds gratitude. If you help somebody less worse off than you, like giving money to a millionaire. So if you help somebody more worse off than you, it does build gratitude. So like helping out in a food kitchen or like a charity place on Christmas Day, because there's always those things. And I have volunteered in places like that before, but not on Christmas Day. I think you could do. And the other idea I had was like helping out in an animal shelter, because animals still need feeding on Christmas Day.
Yeah, it's a good idea, that. And you could extend it to other places as well. I mean, hospitals are open 24/7, aren't they? And I believe that some people volunteer to do things in hospitals.
So it's a way of maybe getting you out of the house, because it is brutal sitting in all day. All the shops are shut. You might not have any money. You don't want to celebrate Christmas. You've not got decorations up. You might not have any people to celebrate it with if you're on your own, or if you're with all your family are still witnesses. It can be really brutal, I think. So trying to get out and do something for others is an option. I'm not saying this is the answer, but it's a consideration.
And also, for any of our listeners to this podcast, if you are in that situation and you are stuck for something to do on Christmas Day, send us an email. The email address is in the show notes. Tell us what you're doing and what you're thinking.
Something that happens round by us, we've got Westonbirt Arboretum, which is like a massive, beautiful, big arboretum. It's always free for, I think it's Christmas Day. It's free for one day of the year. Like, it's really expensive to get in normally. It's like £24 a pop or something. But it's free one day of the year. So it might be worth looking up those free things that are available around you, maybe National Trust properties. Or there are sometimes events. So there's a couple of events around here. There's one which is going swimming in Cheltenham Lido on Christmas morning, which sounds horrific, but it's probably a massive laugh. So I think there are like social events that happen on Christmas Day that wouldn't cost you any money and wouldn't necessarily involve celebrating per se, but would get you out and get you meeting other people and maybe having a little bit of social time on that day.
Yeah, and even if it's just, you just spend a couple of hours or an hour just having that social contact. And there was something that when you were mentioning your suggestions there, something that came into my mind was that old people's homes, they're obviously open, and it could be something as simple as the day before, just go into a shop and buy £10 worth of things and go and take them to your old people's home on Christmas Day. Because there are people that live in that home that might not have any relatives at that time of year. And just
that's a good idea. There's a big cohort of people whose worlds are very small, and therefore they only get to see the people that are paid to care for them. And so a fresh face is invaluable.
What I had written down in preparation for this podcast was a brief history of Jehovah's Witnesses and Christmas. Would you like to hear it?
I really would like to hear it.
It's nothing groundbreaking, but it just might be interesting for those that are not aware of maybe the past sort of 100 years and Jehovah's Witnesses with Christmas. So, a big shocker right at the beginning, Jehovah's Witnesses used to celebrate Christmas.
Yes, because there's a famous picture, isn't there, of Bethel?
Yes, there's a famous picture of Bethel, the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, decked in Christmas decorations, and the whole workforce sitting down for Christmas dinner. In that famous photo, which is from 1926, incidentally, you can identify Rutherford, Nathan Knorr, Franz, and Milton Henschel. They are all sat in the photograph. Yeah.
Are they all smiling?
None of them seem to be smiling.
That's my recollection. I didn't want to say it because in my mind I've got a vision of everybody looking as miserable as sin, but I thought I better not say it in case I've just invented that detail.
Yeah, now none of them seem to be smiling in the photo, but then it was taken in 1926, and people, from my experience, didn't seem to smile much in photos from then.
They didn't smile until the 70s, did they?
No, that was for different reasons.
Well, sex was invented.
So going back to, let me see now, there was a watchtower in 1904. You can check this on the internet, but the witnesses have deleted it from their own website. Oh. Watchtower 1904, December the 1st, it says the following. It says, the celebration of Jesus' birth is a tribute of respect to him. We may as well join with the world in celebrating this event. But there you go. So, yeah, obviously the witnesses used to celebrate it. 1926, they were still celebrating it. But then, suddenly, in 1927, in the Golden Age magazine of December, it said the following: that Christmas is a pagan celebration and focuses on pleasures and involves idol worship. The fact that the rest of the world celebrate it is a conclusive argument against its celebration by us. So
the logic there is thin, isn't it? The fact that everybody else does it means we shouldn't.
I wonder if something happened at the 1926 Christmas party.
Somebody got drunk and photocopied their bum. And they said, "Oh my God, we can't be having this."
Yeah, I wondered if it was something like that, or that someone got drunk and ran off with somebody else's partner or husband or something. Something changed in 1926, 1927. If anyone knows what changed, please enlighten us, because I haven't found the answer yet. Right.
So who was it? Who do you think was behind that? Was it Rutherford? Was he in the driving seat by then?
I don't know. I should have looked this up, actually, because Russell, when did Russell die? Was it in the 20s?
I'm going to Google it now. Google is my friend.
Because I
feel like Rutherford made some big changes to try and differentiate his group from other groups.
Yes. The beards was one thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he banned beards because he didn't like Russell's beard. Yeah, I wondered if that 1926-27 period coincided with a change in leadership.
I feel like things were introduced that generated an us and them a siege mentality. So we do this and everybody else does that, and therefore, and you can differentiate yourself.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, that, because there is, you mentioned the word tenuous. Whenever Jehovah's Witnesses explain why they don't celebrate Christmas, it does always seem a bit tenuous. You know, they talk about, it's related to pagan religions thousands of years ago. And you think, well, we're in 2024. Is that a good reason? It seems a bit tenuous.
Charles Russell died in October 1916.
Right. So Rutherford had been in power for a good 10 years. So maybe you were right. Maybe someone tried to photocopy parts of their body and it got out of control, and Rutherford said, right, That's it. No more Christmas.
That's it. We either get rid of the photocopier or we get rid of Christmas. It's Occam's razor, isn't it? And obviously Christmas went.
We all know how important photocopiers are. So
well, exactly. They're second after the printing press.
Absolutely. So there we go. We've answered our own questions there. Right. What else did my research come up with? Right. So I went to modern day. So I went on the jw.org website, and it was basically giving a one sentence answer about Christmas. And I came across this. It says, the Bible does not mention a date of birth for Jesus, and it also does not say Christmas should be or should not be celebrated. And I thought that was quite interesting. So it's very, very neutral. It's saying, just in that sentence, it's saying the Bible does not say whether Christmas should or should not be celebrated. So I don't know whether they've put that in to leave a potential future change.
An open door.
I mean, it's very much still the culture inside the organisation to not celebrate Christmas. But interestingly, I had a look at the Elders textbook. So if anyone's not sure, if any listeners are not sure what that is, that's basically, it's a secret handbook for elders that only they get to see. And it says it has a long...
Them and you, because you've looked at it.
Oh yeah, I should add that it's available online. If you just Google Jehovah's Witness Elder textbook, it'll come up. So in the textbook, it has a long list of things that you can be disciplined for as a Jehovah's Witness. It talks about celebrating false religious holidays, And the question asked is, do elders need to form a judicial committee if someone celebrates a false religious holiday? And it goes on to say, not all holidays directly involve false religion, and therefore not all holidays require judicial action. So again, I thought that was not as strong as it could be.
Yeah, it does leave, as you say, it leaves a little bit of an open door, doesn't it? Say that again. Not all holidays involve religious.
So it says, not all holidays directly involve false religion.
False religion, right. What about bar mitzvahs?
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, to me, something directly involving another religion is something that you'd maybe go to a place of worship, or you'd have a priest or a vicar or a rabbi in attendance.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
perfectly possible for someone to have a very secular Christmas with no religious aspects at all.
Except the clue's in the title. You'd have to call it Winter Mass, which, funnily enough, quite a few of my peers at Kingdom Hall, when I was a young person, got winter presents.
Yeah, and I have heard of people celebrating a winter festival instead of Christmas. So that was the height of my potted history on Jehovah's Witnesses and Christmas. What it kind of said to me is that the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses wants its people to spend as little time as possible with non-witnesses. Of course, they're going to say, oh yeah, we don't celebrate Christmas, because if you celebrate Christmas, you might be tempted to go to the office Christmas party. You might be tempted to go to some other Christmas celebration. So they almost want to keep people separate from other people that might poison their thinking, if you like.
Now that's interesting, because actually, well, not the office Christmas party, but certainly Christmas dues. Years ago, when I was still a witness, I went out with my colleagues to an Italian. Like, it wasn't on Christmas Day, it was like probably, I don't know, the 18th or something. We just went out, and you kind of justify it to yourself, well, it's the end of the year and we're just going out for a meal. But I did feel overwhelming guilt until I got to the Italian and I saw an elder's wife who was out with her work colleague having her winter do. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. It's like you can kind of justify it's not Christmas. Well, it's the end of the year. We're all having we're having a meal out, just because it's kind of a kind of time of year when you might all be bothered to go out.
Yeah, it does very much seem that the witness doctrine, it doesn't seem to follow any kind of logical course. It does seem to be, we'll change it to whatever we think will suit us. And an example of that is the big reason that witnesses don't celebrate Christmas is because they say it's related to pagan customs. Wearing a wedding ring is related to pagan customs, but that's allowed. So they do seem to pick and choose what they want to do, depending on, what the governing bodies say. Maybe that's been of interest to some of our listeners, or maybe we've bored you to death with that. But
there's an immense amount of guilt that comes with doing anything Christmas, whether you're in or out or halfway out or whatever. It's difficult. I think probably it's more difficult for people who have maybe left but are still living with a believing spouse, and therefore you can't do any Christmas things. And maybe if you've got children, I think that must be heartbreaking, because you might want to do Christmas things but you can't because of your partner. And I just think there's some people that are really trapped in difficult situations. But if you're not trapped, and the only thing that's trapping you is your own guilt, like the horse tied to a plastic chair, you can consciously work on freeing yourself from that shame-based condition. And you can pick and choose what you want to do. Because when I was with my son's dad, who was not a witness at all, I used to say, well, I've never had to do Christmas, so I'm just going to pick the bits I like. So I'm not going to buy your family presents because I don't like them, and that just feels false to me. But I am going to do this bit because I enjoy it. I'm not going to do that bit. I'm not going to follow the rules about when you put your tree up, because I love having my tree up. So I'm going to put it up in November and take it down in February for me. So I
Mhm.
just used to say, I don't know the rules of Christmas, so I'll just do what I like. And that's quite a nice, empowering place to be.
It's interesting that, yeah. So you've picked and chosen exactly what you want out of the holiday season.
Yeah.
What just popped into my head, it's on a slightly different subject, but I once went to a Jehovah's Witness meeting where there was a Christmas tree up in the main hall. So it was, if anyone's from the northwest of England, there was a congregation called Horwich, and I think they were having some difficulty in finding. They were either between halls or they were looking for a piece of land so they could build their own hall. So in the meantime, they were renting like a community hall or some kind of this other charity or business had. So obviously it wasn't an owned Kingdom Hall. And in December, I can remember it was either me or my dad that was giving the public talk on a Sunday. And we walked into this building and there was a Christmas tree next to the platform. And there were Christmas
That's a
trees.
thing of beauty.
Yeah, there were decorations up along. And we said to somebody as soon as we walked in, oh, yeah, we can tell this is not a proper Kingdom Hall. So it was just bizarre. Really. We did the Watchtower study with the Christmas tree and all its twinkling lights next to us.
My enduring memory of Christmas from when I was a child was my dad's sister, my auntie. Their family had never been witnesses, so they did the full Christmas, and they had like a proper, like Northern house. You have your front room that's the best room that nobody goes in, and then your other room. In the front room, they always had a full floor to ceiling real tree and beautiful baubles and lights. And I just remember whenever we visited, it just entranced me. I thought it was so beautiful, just the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And every year since I've celebrated Christmas, I've tried to recreate my Auntie Barbara's Christmas tree in my house, because it just I just loved it. And I know Auntie Barbara always used to buy me a Christmas present. And there always used to be this kind of standoff where she'd hand it to me, and then my mum or dad would say, oh, no, 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 you don't have to do it, and try and hand it back. And my little hands would be like reaching out like, no, please let me have the Christmas present. I think she always used to buy me an Enid Blyton book. I say always, it probably happened once, but in my memory it was always. And that just gives me such a lovely, warm, loved feeling that somebody thought about me at Christmas and bought me a Christmas present. That's my enduring memory of it.
It's interesting that. Were you always allowed to keep your Christmas presents and cards?
See, I can't remember. I never got a card from Auntie Barbara. She always bought me a book. Feel like, you see, I've got a narrative in my mind that says that the gift was handed back and I was this poor little victim. But it's possibly true that they let me keep the book because it was a book, so it's quite a meritorious present.
Yeah,
it's possible that I got to keep it, but not like unwrap it on Christmas Day, but just have the book.
I can remember receiving a lot of Christmas cards as a child from other children at school, and occasional presents. And my mum had said to me, accept it because you don't want to hurt their feelings, but when you get home, throw it away. So I always had to throw everything away when I got home.
That's brutal.
Yeah. Looking back, it is quite brutal. Yeah.
For a child. Because it's not just that you didn't get to keep the cards. I mean, a card's neither here or there, but the feeling of betrayal that you probably carried with you as a child, that somebody had thought of you and given you something, and then in secret you had to trash it. That's quite a psychotic thing to make a child do, isn't it?
Yeah, it is quite brutal looking back. I think as a child, I thought, oh, yeah, I don't want to hurt their feelings. So I really like that bit of it, instead of tearing it up in front of them, and throwing it on the floor.
Yeah. You mean nothing to me.
Yeah, I kind of justified it in my little 10-year-old brain by thinking, yeah, I don't want to hurt the feelings, I'll take it, and then throw it away when I get home. And yeah, it was like that all the way through till I wasn't a child anymore.
And at the time you're brave and you go, oh no, we don't celebrate Christmas and it doesn't bother me. But I think looking back, a lot of what I said was bullshit.
Yeah, but you're only a child, aren't you? You don't really understand the tenuous links that they make you believe is a bad thing about celebrating Christmas. It is a difficult time for witness children, and like you said before, for witness parents as well. It must be awful, really.
Survival means that you have to make the people that you live with happy.
So what would your one line of advice be for witnesses that are technically witnesses but are mentally checked out or looking to leave the organisation?
My advice would be, if you're still in, I mean, obviously, if you faded, but there's nothing obvious that you're doing wrong, so you've not been disfellowshipped, putting decorations up is the thing that they'll get you on, and then they'll disfellowship you on you. So as long as you're towing the line visually, you can kind of go under the radar. So my advice would be, if you're still sort of being accepted as a witness, but you've mentally checked out, I would try and do something that's not Christmassy, but that helps other people, like helping out, you know, in a food kitchen or in an animal shelter, something that gives you a really nourishing feeling of doing good, but isn't obviously Christmas, but occupies you on that brutal day when nothing else is happening. If you're a bit further down the line and you're toying with, like, I don't know whether I should, or I feel overwhelmingly guilty, I would say make a conscious effort to work on the guilt, because there's actually nothing to feel guilty about. But I do understand that guilt can take years to diminish. So don't just wait for it to disappear. Don't just think, oh, time will do the job. You have to actively work on telling yourself why it's okay for you to do the things you want to do. And if you don't want to do Christmas, happy days, don't do it. And if you do, happy days, do it and actively work on the guilt. And if you just want to pick and choose bits, then literally do that. Go, I'm going to pick this. I'm not going to send cards because I think it's a waste of money, but I am going to buy these 3 people gifts. I'm not going to put a tree up, but I am going to put lights all over the house because I love lights. Whatever's your jam, do it and own it and work on getting rid of the guilt and shame.
Good advice, that. It really is good advice. Yeah, because people might be at different stages. Mine would be very similar, actually. It would be the best gift you can give to anyone is time. So I'd say, you know, if you're struggling with your feelings over this festive period, just go and give someone some of your time. It might be a relative that you don't really speak to that much. Just go around and have a cup of tea with them and a chat, because that's what people do at this time of year. They go and speak to people that they haven't seen all year. You don't have to buy them a present because it's Christmas. You know, if that makes you feel guilty still, just give them your time, and that would be my advice.
Yeah, that is really true. And I know a lot of people I know that don't want to spend lots of money on gifts because they also don't want to be suckered into a compulsory materialistic thing. They might do a round robin where everybody makes a gift. So I've known families do that, where you just do you pick a name out of a hat, and you're not allowed to buy anything, but you make something. So it might be that you make jam, or you make some pasta, or you make some tomato sauce, or you make some sauerkraut. And that's a really nice thing to do as well. And it's quite good fun and interesting. And you only have to make one thing because you've done a round robin. And if you don't have anyone to round robin for, then try and find someone less fortunate than yourself to like have a cup of tea with. Yeah,
absolutely. I've got an advent calendar confession this year.
Go on.
So I know people might judge me on this. I'm fairly new to advent calendars. I think I've only had maybe 2 or 3 bought for me in my entire life. My partner bought me an advent calendar, and it was a very thoughtful one because it had cheese in it. So every day you get a different cheese, and cheese is one of my favorite things in the world. So I was very, very excited about this. So on the 1st of December, I had my cheese advent calendar sat on the fireplace there. I opened the first one and it was a cheddar.
Good start, a good solid start there.
Yeah, good solid cheddar. So the 2nd of December, it was a Gouda.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I'm liking that.
3rd of December, it was a herb cheese. That was probably my favourite. Then I got a bit carried away. Because I knew the cheese was there, some days I wouldn't just be opening one window. I might open 2. It got to the point where on the 13th of December, there was no cheese left.
God, you animal!
So she was sat there in the living room one day, and what I'd tried to do is I'd tried to close some of the windows back up, so
she wouldn't notice.
It looked like I'd not gone in them. And she was sat there in the living room one day, and I'd gone to make a cup of tea, and I brought the cup of tea back, and she's got this really quizzical look on her face, and she's looking at the advent calendar, and she's looking at me, and she said, "There seem to be a lot of windows open on that advent calendar."
You've broken the rules of Christmas.
I have. She caught me, and I'd smashed through the whole cheese advent calendar in 13 days. So I am very sorry about that, and I'll never do it again.
Although I do refer you to my previous comment, you pick the rules that you want to follow, and you didn't want to follow the rule of Christmas advent calendars.
That's the way I've been brought up. There's no excuses for it.
I do buy my daughter an advent calendar every year and send it to her. So she generally gets a really posh chocolate one. But my son, he's like a bit of a fitness bunny at the minute. So last year I made him an advent calendar with protein bars, which I wrapped in gold paper and strung 24 protein bars up in a Christmas tree triangle, like big, heavy ones.
Wow. So you made that yourself?
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds really good. That, do you know, that's given me an idea. I might just make one next year.
Yeah, because you can pick what you want. Obviously, if you make it for yourself, there's no surprise, right? You make it for someone else.
We've talked a lot about Christmas. Have I got time for my letter for the elders?
Yes, please. I was going to say you have something else to discuss, don't you? Please go ahead.
It's a special little treat for listeners. Now, I don't know whether you want it to become a regular feature, but some might know that I keep fairly up to date with things that are going on in Jehovah's Witness land. And I've got someone in one of the Bethels who sends me all of the latest elders letters and word on gossip on the street and all that kind of stuff. So I have an elders letter from September 2024, and it covers various subjects. So for those that are witnesses, you'll know that on a Thursday night, sometimes there is an announcements and reminders sheet read out, and it'll just be procedural things like, please ensure that there's someone assigned to do the hall cleaning every week, etc., etc. So this letter from September was sent to all elders. Now, I have the US letter, assuming it was sent to the UK elders as well. Maybe if someone could confirm that for us, that would be nice. I'll read to you what it says. So, point number 2 talks about defibrillators. So it says, regarding defibrillators at Kingdom Halls, it says, bodies of elders have at times inquired about installing defibrillators at Kingdom Halls. We view life as a sacred gift from Jehovah. However, due to increasing liability concerns, as well as the training and maintenance needed to legally keep these devices, defibrillators should not be installed at Kingdom Halls. If there is a medical emergency, attendants should immediately call the emergency services. Prompt arrival of emergency services is crucial for timely aid. While emergency services are in transit, Any willing attendees who are trained in CPR can assist if a cardiac event is suspected. And then it finishes off with the real bombshell. If you have a defibrillator in your Kingdom Hall, please remove and dispose of it.
Really?
Yes. So all congregations have been asked to remove and dispose of their defibrillators.
I do know that there is a cost to keeping them maintained, because we have them in my school and people have to come and check them, and that obviously costs. So do you think it's just a financial thing?
I think that's part of it, yeah. Well, I think that's most of it, because there's two elements. There's the cost of maintaining it, and then there's any potential legal costs if they get sued, if something goes wrong. They do seem to be a bit of an outlier, because I know of no other organisation that has given the same advice to remove them.
Not
that long ago.
And actually, I thought the law was such that, I'm sure the law was amended a while ago, so that it didn't put people off from helping in those kind of situations.
I think it might be called the Samaritan's Law. It just struck me as odd, because it's probably the same everywhere in the UK, but where I live, there's been a lot of fundraising and charity events to raise money to buy and maintain defibs to put in village halls and the
old phone boxes everywhere.
With the emphasis on, sometimes the emergency services will not get there in time, and you and a defib is the only thing that's going to save someone's life.
And you're right, it is the Good Samaritan law, and it says the law protects people who provide reasonable assistance to those who are injured, ill, or incapacitated. For example, if someone breaks a rib while performing CPR on another person, they would be protected by the Good Samaritan law. Because we did that CPR training at work, and actually you need to do it to the point where you almost are breaking ribs for it to work.
Yeah, because you have to push down quite a way, don't you?
Yeah, it's really hard work. It knackered me.
So I just wonder if it is totally financial, that they're panicked, that they are losing money at a rapid rate. The funds are not as much as they used to be. The contributions are drying up. I wonder if it's a panic about money.
That's really sad, isn't it? Because as you say, defibrillators are everywhere.
Yeah, it could be a new strapline for the witnesses. We want to save your life, but not that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a serious point, before this letter came out, if a hall had a defibrillator and someone had a cardiac event, potentially their life could be saved by the person sat next to them. But now, if you live in a rural location, if the hall is half an hour away from the ambulance station, the person could die.
And also, that CPR thing, after we'd done the training at work, the fella said, oh, and you know how many people are saved by this a year? It was either 4% or 6%. I can't remember which one, but it was less than 10%. And I was like, what the hell? You're breaking people's ribs and you're knackering yourself out for up to half an hour, and only 4 in 100 people will be saved. So those defibrillators are brilliant, because they do all the hard work for you, and you open them up and there's a voice that speaks the instruction, and they say, take this sticky thing, put it here, take this sticky thing, put it there, and they talk you through it. It's incredible.
They call them foolproof, don't they? Because they're so easy to use. I looked up figures for America, for the USA, how many lives have defibrillators in public places saved. I think it said, it might have been for last year's figures, it was almost 2,000 people. So if you kind of scale that down to the UK's population, maybe you're talking, I don't know, a couple of hundred people a year.
Each person is a member of a family. And
when I saw that letter, really shocked.
It's one of those, just do as you're told and trust that we're making the right decisions, don't question things, isn't it? Because we're just guessing at the reason. They've obviously not provided a reason. And I guess everybody else is just guessing at the reasons as well, but they're not allowed to guess what we are.
That's it. And I think there was a really telling sentence in the announcement where it says, prompt arrival of emergency services is crucial for timely aid. They're almost like they're justifying their actions. They're saying, we're taking away this potentially life-saving device because it's not our problem. Your emergency services should be saving your life.
And actually, we know that prompt arrival is not that frequent.
Yeah, I mean, they try their best, but if your Kingdom Hall is in a rural area, or there's traffic to fight through, then I would much rather have a defib on the premises. But they are saying in this letter, even if you have got a perfectly working defib that's perhaps just been serviced and maintained, you have got to throw it in the bin. A shocker.
Yeah, I would like you to have a regular slot with your letters.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you very much for that discussion about Christmas. I'm going to wish you a really happy Christmas. And to anyone that is feeling ambiguous about celebrating Christmas, I'm going to wish you a lovely, happy winter. And I hope you enjoy your time off work or your peaceful time on your own.
And the same from me. Happy holidays, happy Christmas, whatever you want to call it. Have a good time. Hopefully you've got some time off work, and have a good one.
I think we've made the assumption there that our two listeners both work, and I think that's a sound assumption to make.
What's our next episode on, Louise?
Oh, we're going to do the numbers, aren't we?
Oh, the numbers, right. I can't wait for that one. That's going to be superb. Yeah. So
brilliant.
It might not be, because it's me doing all the research.
Don't be finger pointing at me, you bit lazy arse that I am.
I got really excited about this, and then I thought, people are just going to listen to me droning on about figures.
It's all right. I'll tell jokes in between.
Brilliant. That's good. Yeah, I'll stop every 2 or 3 minutes. You tell a joke, and then we'll move on.
Okay. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and we hope you have a really lovely break.
Thanks. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.